The protest was loud enough to shake the windows. Signs filled the street like a forest. Some had bright mutant symbols. Some had words like register and no more. Police lines held the crowd apart, but the air still felt like it could snap. Aurora Monroe stood on the edge of a rooftop, a few blocks away. Her white hair moved in the wind she did not fully call. She watched hands. She watched faces. She watched the place where anger turns into a thrown bottle. Logan crouched beside her, low and ready. His eyes tracked a small patrol drone in the sky. "They've got toys today," he muttered. Aurora's gaze stayed calm. "Then we keep people safe." A shout rose, then another. A group pushed forward. A counter-group pushed back. Someone tripped. Someone screamed. The drone in the sky dipped, and a red light blinked under its belly. Aurora's jaw tightened. Now. She stepped off the roof, wind catching her like a strong hand. Logan leapt after her, landing hard on a fire escape. He moved fast and low, slipping through shadows and sound. Down on the street, the drone fired. A thin beam cut across the air and struck the pavement. Concrete burst. People ran. The crowd turned into a wave with no plan. That was when it happened. The sky tore. It was not lightning. It was not a portal like Doctor Strange. It was a clean rip, like someone opened a door in the wrong place. The air inside it looked deeper than the sky should ever look. Something stepped out. A man in a suit, shoes too nice for a street full of panic, appeared as if he had been there the whole time. Huge white wings opened behind him, wide enough to block the sun for a second. He did not fall. He simply arrived, standing on nothing, as if gravity had to ask his permission. Below him, the drone fired again. The beam aimed for a group of teenagers trapped against a barricade. The winged man glanced down like he was mildly annoyed. He lifted one hand. The beam bent. It curved away, like it had hit an invisible wall. It streaked harmlessly into the side of a building, leaving a smoking scar instead of bodies on the ground. People froze. Not all of them. Some still ran, but a lot of heads tilted up at the same time. The winged man floated down and landed in the middle of the street. He did it softly, without cracking the ground. He looked around at the chaos like someone who had walked into the wrong party. Then he spoke, loud enough that people heard him without him shouting. "This is dramatic." A police officer aimed a weapon at him with shaking hands. "Hands where I can see them." The man looked at the gun, then at the officer, then smiled with no warmth at all. "What do you truly want?" he asked. The officer blinked. His mouth opened before his brain could catch up. "I want to go home," he blurted, horrified at his own words. A woman near him let out a shocked laugh that sounded like it hurt. The man's eyes slid to her. "And you?" She covered her mouth, but it was too late. "I want them to stop calling me a monster," she said, voice breaking. The winged man's smile softened, just a fraction. Reasonable. Logan hit the street like a knife thrown from the dark. He landed between the winged man and the crowd, claws half out, nose working. Aurora descended behind Logan, her boots touching down as the wind calmed around her. Her eyes flicked over the stranger. Suit, wings, perfect posture, calm face in a storm. She did not raise her voice. She did not threaten. She simply asked the most important question. "Who are you?" The man turned to her like she had finally said something interesting. He bowed his head slightly, as if manners were a game he enjoyed. "Lucifer," he said. Logan's lip curled. "Yeah? And I'm the Easter Bunny." Lucifer's eyes moved to Logan's claws. Not fear, not surprise, more like recognition. "Of course you are," Lucifer replied, as if Logan had confirmed something he already knew. Above them, the drone shifted, trying to find a new angle. Aurora's fingers tightened. Lucifer sighed. "Fine." He looked up, and for a second, the street went very still. Not silent people were still breathing, still crying, but the feel changed. Like the world was holding its breath. The drone's red light flickered. Then the drone simply came apart. Not with an explosion, not with shrapnel. It separated into neat pieces, screws and panels and wires dropping like rain. They hit the street harmlessly, clattering around Lucifer's shoes. Aurora stared. Logan stared harder. Somewhere far away, in a quiet room filled with humming machines, Charles Xavier's eyes snapped open over Cerebro's monitors. His face went pale. "Jean," he said softly, voice tight with disbelief. "I can't read him." Jean Grey was already holding her head, her breath shallow. She stared at a spike on the screen that didn't look like a normal mind at all. And behind her eyes, behind everything, she felt something else shift. A heat, far away. Like a sun noticing a spark. To be Elodie Sakis, Scott Summers did not like surprises. He liked plans. He liked lines of sight. He liked knowing how many exits a room had before he walked into it. So when the call came in, winged man, unknown power, Manhattan in panic, his first instinct was not awe. It was containment. "Keep civilians moving," he ordered through the comms. "Ororo, Logan, do not escalate unless you have to." Ororo's reply was calm. He ended the drone threat without harming anyone. Logan's reply was not calm. "He's wrong, Scott. Smells wrong." Scott exhaled through his nose. "Bring him to the school, carefully." Ororo looked at Lucifer across the street. The crowd had pulled back into a wide circle around them, like people do around a fire. Some filmed, some prayed, some shouted, some just stared with open fear. Lucifer glanced at a phone pointed at him and gave it a slow, lazy smile that made the person holding it flinch. Ororo stepped forward. "Lucifer, if that is your name, you need to come with us." Lucifer's eyes returned to hers. "Do I?" "Yes," Ororo said, "because people are scared, and you are not helping." His eyebrows lifted. "I saved them." "You did," she agreed at once. "And now you will not make this worse." For a moment, Lucifer looked like he might laugh. Then he surprised her. He nodded once. "Very well." Logan didn't move his claws away. "If you try anything..." Lucifer's gaze slid to Logan again. "You're welcome." Logan growled low in his throat. Ororo felt the air shift around Lucifer when he walked. It was not wind. It was not pressure. It was like being near a storm that did not care if you were ready. They moved him fast and quiet, using side streets and cover. Still, cameras followed. People shouted questions. Someone screamed, "Angel!" Someone else screamed something much uglier. Lucifer did not react to any of it. He looked bored. At the gates of Xavier's school, the moment stretched. It looked like a normal mansion from the outside, a place that should have laughter and calm. But the X-Men knew what it really was. A home, a fortress, and a secret all at once. Lucifer glanced up at the building. "A school," he said. "How charming." Inside, Hank McCoy Beast waited with a tablet in hand and worry behind his glasses. He had already pulled up every sensor they had. "Welcome," Hank said carefully. "Please." Lucifer stepped into the foyer and looked around like he was judging the decor. He paused as if listening for something. "A piano," he said. Hank blinked. "Yes, we have one." Lucifer nodded, satisfied, like that solved half the universe. Scott entered from the hall, visor on, shoulders tight. He took in the wings, the suit, the calm smile, and the way Ororo's stance stayed protective. "Name?" Scott said. "Lucifer," Lucifer repeated, like it should mean something to them. Scott did not flinch. "Last name?" Lucifer's smile widened. "No." Logan snorted. "Told you." Charles Xavier rolled into view, hands folded, expression kind but alert. "Thank you for coming peacefully," Xavier said. "That is a choice I respect." Lucifer turned to him, and Ororo saw something change. Not fear. Not respect, exactly. More like interest in an equal. "You," Lucifer said. "You're the one listening." Xavier nodded. "And you are the one who is difficult to hear." Lucifer's eyes gleamed. "Good." Hank cleared his throat. "If you will allow us, we'd like to perform some tests. Non-invasive. Simple scans." Lucifer tilted his head. "Do you take blood from all your new students?" "We don't have many students with wings," Hank said dryly. Lucifer looked down at his own wings as if he had forgotten them. "Fair point." They led him into a lab that looked too clean for the things it had seen. Hank ran sensors over Lucifer's body. Heat, radiation, gravity, energy spectra, everything. The screens did not behave. One graph flatlined. Another spiked, then disappeared. A third displayed numbers, then replaced them with error messages, as if the machine had decided it did not want to be involved. Hank stared. That's not possible. Lucifer leaned in, eyes calm. Your toys are adorable. Scott watched every movement. You're not a mutant. Lucifer's gaze drifted to Scott's visor. No. Ororo's voice was soft. Then what are you? Lucifer looked at her, then at the others, then around the lab. His smile returned, but it wasn't friendly. It was sharp. What do you think I am? No one answered. Jean Grey stepped into the doorway with a slow, careful walk. She did not look at Lucifer's wings first. She looked at his eyes, and she felt that heat again, far away. Lucifer looked at her like he had been waiting for her to show up. Ah, he said quietly. There you are. Jean's throat tightened. Don't come into my head. Lucifer's eyebrows rose. I haven't. Jean did not relax. You could. Lucifer shrugged as if that was obvious. So could you. Xavier's voice stayed calm. We are not your enemies, but we are responsible for the people in this home. If you are here, you will respect that. Lucifer's head angled slightly. Responsibility. How exhausting. Scott stepped forward half a pace. You want to stay here? You follow rules. Lucifer looked at Scott like he was looking at a child trying to play soldier. And if I don't? Logan's claws clicked out fully. Then we find out if you bleed. Lucifer's eyes flicked down to the claws. He did not move away. He did not tense. He simply sighed, like Logan was wasting his time. What do you truly want? Lucifer asked Logan. Logan's mouth opened. Ororo's eyes widened. Logan, don't. I want, Logan snapped, voice fighting itself, to know if you're going to hurt these kids. The room went quiet. Logan's jaw clenched hard. He hated that he had answered. Lucifer studied him. That, he said, is not a lie. He turned to Scott with the same calm. What do you truly want? Scott's face tightened. He forced his mouth shut. But the question hit like a shove. I want control, Scott said, and his own eyes flashed with anger at Lucifer, at himself, at the truth. Lucifer nodded as if Scott had reported the weather. Of course you do. Ororo stepped forward and held Lucifer's gaze without flinching. What do you truly want? Lucifer asked her. Ororo took a breath. Peace, she said, with dignity. Lucifer's smile softened, just a little. Expensive, but honest. Hank swallowed. That, what you're doing, is it some form of telepathy? Jean's voice was tense. It's worse. It's like he's tugging at the part of you that answers before you can hide. Lucifer held up both hands, palms out, playful surrender. I'm asking. People don't have to answer, Hank said. Lucifer looked at him. And yet they do. Xavier leaned forward. You are pushing at something inside them. Lucifer's tone stayed light. I'm offering them a chance to stop pretending. Jean's eyes narrowed. That's still not your right. Lucifer's smile faded. For the first time, his boredom cracked and something colder showed through. Rights, he said softly, are rules made by people who hope the strong will obey. Ororo felt her stomach tighten. This was the line. This was where a stranger with power decided he was above them. Xavier did not raise his voice. Then let me be clear. In this home, we choose to obey rules because we choose to protect people, not because we are weak. Lucifer studied Xavier for a long moment. Then he nodded once, slow. A choice, he said. How refreshing. Xavier gestured gently. May I try something? Briefly. Only with your consent. Lucifer's eyes gleamed again. You want to read me? Yes, Xavier admitted. Not to control you. To understand. Lucifer leaned back in his chair. Try. Jean's breath caught. Hank's fingers hovered over the console. Scott's hands tightened at his sides. Logan didn't move, but his eyes sharpened. Xavier reached out with his mind, careful as a hand near a flame. He touched Lucifer's presence, and the world inside his head seemed to open. Not like a door, like a sky with no end. There were no clear thoughts to grab, no human fears to trace, no simple memories. There was only a vast, calm awareness, and beneath it, something like a deep smile. Xavier felt, in one clean moment, that Lucifer could crush minds if he wanted to, not by effort, by decision. Xavier pulled back at once, sweat on his brow. Lucifer tilted his head. "Well?" Xavier forced his voice steady. "You are not like anything I have ever met." Lucifer's smile returned. "I know." Scott stepped in. "So what do you want here?" "Really?" Lucifer looked around the room. His eyes landed on the children's drawings on a bulletin board outside the lab door. Bright colors, stick figures, a sun with a smiling face. Something in Lucifer's gaze paused, almost like a thought that did not fit his usual shape. Then it passed. "I want," he said, and the room braced, "to not be bored." Logan scoffed. "That's it?" Lucifer shrugged. "It's more honest than most." Jean's voice was sharp. "People die when you get bored." Lucifer's eyes slid to her. "Do they?" Jean held his gaze. "Yes." For a moment, Lucifer looked almost curious. "Then perhaps," he said, "you should try harder to be interesting." Scott's patience snapped. "This isn't a game." Lucifer's tone stayed calm. "Everything is a game. You just pretend it isn't so you can sleep." Aurora lifted her chin. "Enough." She turned to Xavier. "Charles, we need a decision." Xavier nodded, eyes still gentle, but his mind moving fast. He looked at Lucifer like a dangerous storm he still wanted to understand. "You may stay," Xavier said. "For now, under conditions." Scott's eyes widened. "Charles," Xavier raised a hand. "We cannot throw him back into the world without knowing what he is. We cannot fight him without cause, and we cannot pretend he does not exist." Logan growled. "And if he turns?" Xavier looked at Logan. "Then we respond." Xavier turned back to Lucifer. "You will not harm anyone here. You will not use your questions on the students. You will not leave without telling us." Lucifer's smile turned playful again. "And if I do?" Scott's voice was flat. "Then we stop you." Lucifer looked at Scott, then at Aurora, then at Jean. He seemed to enjoy the fact that they truly meant it, even if the math was not in their favor. Finally, he stood. He spread his wings slightly, just enough that the room felt smaller. Then he folded them back in, like a man putting away a coat. "Very well," Lucifer said. "I will behave." He walked toward the hall and paused near the piano room door, as if he had known exactly where it would be. He glanced back over his shoulder. "But," he added, "do try not to bore me." That night, long after the school quieted, Jean sat awake in her room with her hands pressed to her temples. She could still feel him in the building, not inside her head, not pushing, just present. And behind that, far away, the heat returned. A slow, watching warmth that made her skin prickle. Jean stared into the dark and whispered to herself, "What are you?" Somewhere below, in a room that was too quiet, Lucifer sat at the piano and touched one key. The note hung in the air, clean and simple. And far beyond the stars, something vast shifted its attention, like a giant eye opening a little wider. "This is a Cana, has a das committed." The next day began with bad news and worse timing. Scott was in the war room with Hank and Aurora when the first report hit the screen, footage from Manhattan, already edited, already framed. A headline ran under Lucifer's wings in bold letters. "New mutant weapon?" Another called him a terror threat. Another called the X-Men, harboring an unknown. Scott stared at the screen until his jaw ached. "They're setting the story," he said. Hank nodded grimly. "And people love a monster they can point at." Aurora's voice stayed steady. "We do not let fear write our actions." Scott turned to the next feed. A satellite image, a heat signature, a location tag. Hank's eyes narrowed. That's an Orcus facility. Ororo's gaze sharpened. They moved fast. They had no time to talk about what Orcus should do. Orcus did what it wanted. A new alert flashed red. Mutant disturbance. Public event. Live coverage. Scott's heart sank. They're not hiding, he said. They want cameras. Logan's voice crackled in through the comms. Smells wrong again, like metal and bleach. Jean stepped into the room, face pale. I felt something, she said. Not Lucifer. Something else, like a hungry shadow. Scott's eyes flicked to her. Shadow King? Jean nodded once. Ororo looked at the door, where the hallway led to the music room. We need to move, Scott said. Now, team formation. Evac first, fight second. Logan's voice was hard. What about wings? Scott hesitated for half a second. Then he made the call a leader had to make, even if he hated it. He comes, Scott said, where we can see him. They reached the street in minutes. The scene Orcus chose was no accident. It was a crowded plaza with a stage, banners, and a big screen showing Public Safety Initiative. Cameras stood on tripods. Reporters stood in neat lines. Police blocked streets in clean squares. And in the middle of it all, a group of mutants were being screened by machines that looked like metal gates. People in suits smiled and pointed, like they were selling a product. Scott's hands tightened. They're making it look voluntary. Ororo's eyes narrowed. It is not. A teenage boy with blue skin backed away from a scanner. A guard grabbed his arm too hard. The crowd shouted. Some cheered. Some booed. Fear split people into teams. Then the machine gates flashed. A mutant girl screamed and fell to her knees, clutching her head. Jean's face twisted. That's suppression tech, she said. It hurts them. Scott's voice turned cold. We end this, carefully. They moved. Nightcrawler blinked into the plaza, grabbed the girl and the boy, and blinked out with them before anyone could aim. Storm stepped forward, wind rising. Not a tornado. Not yet. Just enough to push people back and keep them from getting crushed. Cyclops raised his visor and fired a thin, precise blast that cut the scanner gates apart without touching the people around them. Logan barreled into the guards, knocking weapons aside, claws still in because he was choosing control. The cameras swung toward the X-Men like hungry birds. A man on the stage grabbed a microphone. You see, he shouted, they attack public safety. The air above the plaza shimmered. Something tall and white stepped into view, as if the sky had been waiting for him. Lucifer hovered over the crowd, wings wide, suit clean, expression bored. Oh, he said, looking down at the stage. A show. Scott's stomach tightened. Stay with us, he ordered through the comm. Lucifer's eyes flicked to Scott as if he could hear him without the device. Of course. Ororo felt the mood change instantly. Half the crowd gasped like they had seen an angel. The other half recoiled like they had seen a demon. Orcus wanted that. Ororo could feel it in the way the cameras framed Lucifer's wings. Then the metal came. A tall figure dropped from above, landing hard enough to crack stone. It was shaped like a man, but built like a tank. Smooth armor, red lights, a face that was not a face. Its head turned, scanning. And when it spoke, its voice was flat and loud. Anomaly detected. Scott's eyes widened. Nimrod. Hank's voice came tight over comms. That's not a normal sentinel. That is a top-tier hunter. The Nimrod unit fired. Not at Lucifer. At the crowd. A wide blast spread out, meant to force the X-Men into defense, meant to make them choose who to save first. Storm snapped her hands up. Wind slammed into the blast, bending it upward. Rain formed in seconds, thick and heavy, like she was trying to wash panic off the air. Cyclops fired a broad beam into the sky to break the redirected blast into harmless light. Nightcrawler blinked in and out, moving families like chess pieces away from danger. Logan sprinted straight toward Nimrod, because he always did. Then Lucifer moved. He did not rush. He did not shout. He drifted down and placed himself between Nimrod and a line of civilians. Nimrod's sensors locked on him. Anomaly priority updated. It raised an arm. A beam of concentrated force shot forward. Lucifer lifted 2 fingers. The beam stopped in front of his hand. It did not explode. It did not break through. It simply hung there, pressed against nothing, like it had hit a wall made of the idea of no. Lucifer glanced sideways at a little boy frozen behind him. "What do you truly want?" Lucifer asked, as if they were in a quiet room. The boy's eyes were huge. His voice came out small. "I want my mom," he said. Lucifer's gaze moved to the mother, who was reaching out with shaking hands. Lucifer nodded once. He stepped aside, and the space between the mother and boy seemed to shorten, not in a magic show way. In a simple, clear way. One moment they were apart, and the next, they were together, hugging, sobbing. Jean stared, breath caught. That was not teleportation. Not exactly. It was like Lucifer had rewritten the distance as if it was a stupid rule. Scott's voice snapped in her ear. "Jean, focus." Nimrod adjusted. It didn't get angry. It got smarter. Panels opened along its shoulders. Small devices shot out and stuck into the ground around the plaza in a wide circle. They pulsed. Lucifer's head tilted. His eyes narrowed slightly, the first sign of real irritation. Aurora felt it too. Not a weakening. More like resistance in the air. Like someone had coated the world in sand. Lucifer looked down at one of the devices. He said. The crowd stirred. People who had been staring at Lucifer suddenly blinked hard, like waking up from a trance. A reporter shouted, "Ask him. Ask him what he is." The question should have pulled at Lucifer's strange power, the way his words made people answer before they could hide. But nothing happened. Lucifer's eyes flicked to Scott, then to Jean, then to Xavier and their comms. They're anchoring, Jean realized. Not his body. People. Hank's voice was sharp. A field to disrupt influence on the mind. They built it to prevent whatever he does with those questions. Lucifer smiled slowly. "That," he said, "is clever." Nimrod fired again. This time, the beam split into many smaller shots that chased moving targets. Storm whipped the wind into tight walls, blocking some shots. Cyclops cut others out of the air with precise bursts. Logan got close enough to slash Nimrod's leg. His claws screeched against the armor. Sparks flew. Nimrod did not slow. It swung an arm and threw Logan through a marble planter like he was a doll. Logan hit the ground and rolled, bones already knitting. He spat blood and grinned like a man who loved pain because it meant he was still in the fight. "Okay," Logan growled. "Now I'm mad." Jean's mind flared as she reached for Nimrod's systems, trying to feel a machine the way she would feel a mind. It was not a mind. It was a cold program wrapped around a weapon. And behind the fear of the crowd, she felt something else. A presence sliding through people like smoke. Hungry. Happy. Shadow King. Jean's face tightened. "Charles," she said into the comm. "He's here." Xavier's voice came, calm but tense. "I know. Hold on, Jean." Lucifer was still standing in the center of the plaza, watching like he was judging a performance. But his eyes kept darting to the crowd, to the fear, to the way people's thoughts were spiking like needles. He could feel it too. Nimrod fired a pulse that targeted Lucifer directly, a burst meant to lock him in place. Lucifer did not dodge. The pulse hit him, and the air around him flashed. For a half second, Lucifer's wings flickered, not disappearing, but shimmering like they were not fully agreeing to be there. Lucifer's smile faded. "Oh," he said softly. "You are trying." Scott shouted, "Move." Lucifer finally did, not fast like a sprint, fast like a decision. He appeared beside one of the anchoring devices. His hand closed around it. It did not break like simple metal. It fought back with a field that pushed against his fingers. Lucifer looked down at it, unimpressed. Then he squeezed. The device crumpled like paper. The field weakened, but not fully. Orcus had placed many. Lucifer sighed like a man forced to do chores. He stepped, and the world around him seemed to skip. He was at the next device, then the next, then the next. Each one crushed, each one removed. Not because he was rushing, because the space between here and there did not seem to argue with him. Aurora watched with a chill down her spine. She had seen gods in stories. She had seen Omega mutants. She had seen power that could end cities. This was different. This was power that treated the rules like they were suggestions. Nimrod saw its field failing and changed tactics again. It turned toward the stage and fired a blast straight at the big screen and the people behind it, reporters, workers, anyone too close. It wasn't random. It was a choice. It was trying to force Lucifer to act in a way that looked like an attack on the public. Lucifer's head snapped up. Aurora moved first. Wind surged, trying to push people back. Scott fired at the blast, trying to cut it. But the blast was wide. Lucifer lifted one hand toward the stage, palm out. The blast stopped. It stopped in midair like it had hit glass. Then Lucifer rotated his wrist slightly. The blast turned, clean and smooth, and shot upward into the clouds, where it burst like a harmless firework. Rain fell through the fading light. The crowd screamed anyway, because fear does not wait to see if it should. And in that fear, Shadow King laughed inside Jean's mind. "He will ruin you," the Shadow King whispered through 100 frightened thoughts. "He will leave you. He will make you kneel. He will make you burn." Jean gritted her teeth, eyes glowing faintly. She reached for the Shadow King like grabbing a snake. Xavier's presence joined hers, strong and steady. Together, they pushed into the psychic layer beneath the plaza. Jean saw it in her mind. A dark shape crouched behind faces, behind anger, behind shame. It wore fear like a coat. And then she felt Lucifer step into that space too. Not politely, not like a student in Xavier's class, like someone walking into his own house. Lucifer's voice did not echo there. It simply was. "What do you truly want?" Lucifer asked the Shadow King. The Shadow King hissed, its shape twisting. "To feed." Lucifer's smile returned, cold and clear. How dull. The Shadow King surged, trying to bite, trying to latch onto Lucifer's presence, trying to turn that vastness into a buffet. For one sharp moment, Jean thought she felt something like flame behind her eyes, not burning her. Watching. The Shadow King recoiled as if it had touched something it did not understand. It slipped away. Not defeated, not captured, just warned. Back in the real world, Nimrod paused. It had gathered enough data, enough footage, enough fear. It launched upward, jets firing, and vanished into the rain clouds with the speed of a missile. Logan snarled and tried to leap after it, but it was gone. Aurora let the wind fall. The rain softened into a light drizzle. The plaza was wrecked. People were safe, mostly, but the cameras were still rolling. A reporter shouted, "Are you with the X-Men?" Lucifer looked at the cameras like they were insects. He turned his head toward Scott, then toward Aurora, then toward the crowd, and he smiled in the worst possible way. "I am," Lucifer said calmly, "with myself." Scott's face tightened. He could already see the headline. Jean's hands shook, not from the fight, from what she had felt behind reality, that distant heat that was paying attention now. Aurora stepped closer to Lucifer. Her voice was low, controlled. "You saved lives," she said. "Thank you." Lucifer looked at her. For a breath, he seemed almost honest. "I hate bullies," he said simply. Then the moment passed, and his casual mask returned. "But I hate boredom more." In a quiet room miles away, screens played the same angles again and again. Slow motion on wings, close-ups on frightened faces. The moment the blast stopped in midair, a voice in that room spoke without emotion. "Phase 1 complete," it said. "The world has seen him." And somewhere inside, the fear still clinging to the crowd, the Shadow King curled into the shadows of human minds and waited. Because now it knew the taste of the game, and it wanted more. And her plays both were guarded. The next morning, the mansion felt too quiet for how loud the world had become. Scott Summers stood in the war room with his arms crossed, watching the same clip on 3 different screens. One angle showed the plaza, Another showed Lucifer's wings filling the sky like a billboard. The third was a close-up on a mother grabbing her child while people screamed. The headline under it was already worse than the footage. Winged mutant threat stops public safety operation. Scott clenched his jaw until it hurt. They cut out the part where Orcus fired into the crowd, he said. Hank McCoy leaned closer to the screen, glasses catching the light. Of course they did, he said. This isn't about what happened. It's about what people think happened. Ororo stood near the window, looking out at the school grounds where students were trying to pretend it was a normal day. Her voice stayed even. People are scared, she said. Fear makes them want a simple story. Scott tapped the remote and flipped channels. It was the same story everywhere, just different words. Angel weapon. Demon mutant. X-Men hiding a new danger. Government must respond. He glanced at Hank. Any luck classifying him? Hank's ears tilted back. Our sensors do not agree on what he is. The machines kept failing. Not from damage. It's like the data refuses to settle. Scott looked at the frozen image of Lucifer's face. Calm. Clean. Smiling at the worst time. And his question, Scott said. Whatever he does to people. Hank frowned. It's not standard telepathy. It's not a chemical effect. It's a push toward honesty. It bypasses the part of the mind that filters. Mind control, Scott said flatly. Ororo turned from the window. Not exactly, she said. He asks. People answer. Scott's eyes hardened. That's a trick. A soft voice came from the doorway. It's a temptation. Kurt Wagner stood there, hands folded in front of him, tail curled tight. His eyes looked tired. Scott nodded once. Kurt stepped in slowly. If someone can pull truth out of you whenever he wants, Kurt said, then you are not free. Ororo's expression softened. And if he uses it to stop someone from hurting people? Kurt hesitated. Then it feels like a blessing, until it is used on someone who did not deserve it. Scott stared at the screens. He didn't say it, but the thought was clear on his face. We do not get to guess what he will do next. Another alert pinged. Hank's tablet chimed with a new report. Hank's eyes widened. We have activity at an Orcus satellite facility, he said. They're moving equipment, heavy equipment. Scott's stomach tightened. They're building something. Ororo's gaze sharpened. Then we must be ready. Scott nodded, but his mind was already in another place. Not the battlefield, the meeting room, the cameras, the stories. Because the next fight might not be in the sky at all. It might be in people's heads. That's as a build in Harley. Charles Xavier sat at his desk with the phone pressed to his ear, listening to a man who thought a polite voice made cruel words acceptable. I'm advising you as a friend, the voice said. If you hand the winged subject over for evaluation, it will calm the situation. Xavier kept his tone gentle. You are advising me to surrender a person, he said, to an organization that attacked civilians yesterday. There was a pause. Then the man sighed as if Xavier was being difficult. Yesterday was a public safety operation, the man said. A misunderstanding occurred. Xavier's eyes flicked to the window, to the lawn where children ran drills with controlled bursts of power, trying to stay disciplined, trying to stay safe. A misunderstanding does not leave scorch marks across a plaza, Xavier said quietly. The voice sharpened. Charles, people are afraid. The country is watching. This Lucifer, Xavier's expression tightened at the name, is a symbol now, the man continued. Whether you like it or not. If you keep him, you share responsibility for what he might do. Xavier breathed in slowly. I understand fear, he said, but I do not obey it. He ended the call before the man could reply. Xavier sat still for a long moment. He could feel the mansion around him like a living thing. The minds inside it were restless today. Students whispered. Teachers watched the windows. Even the trained X-Men felt the tension. And then there was the new mind. Not a mind like theirs. Not a human mind. It was present in the house like a storm sitting on a chair. Xavier had tried to reach it once and felt the sheer size of it. He had pulled back because he was wise enough to know when not to push. Now he rolled out into the hallway. The The school's piano room door was slightly open. Xavier stopped. A single note rang out, then a second, then a short, simple line of music, not flashy, not loud, almost quiet on purpose. Xavier waited at the doorway. Lucifer sat at the piano with perfect posture, fingers moving like he had all the time in the world. His wings were folded, but they still filled the room. He played like someone who didn't need anyone's approval. He looked over his shoulder without stopping. "Charles," Lucifer said, as if he had known Xavier was there the entire time. "You look like a man who enjoys burdens." Xavier rolled into the room. "I enjoy helping people," he corrected. Lucifer's mouth curved. "Same thing." Xavier watched his hands on the keys. "You are talented." Lucifer shrugged. "It passes time." "And what will you do with the time you have here?" Xavier asked. Lucifer played one more note and let it hang before he answered. "I haven't decided," he said. Xavier nodded. "The world is deciding for you." Lucifer turned fully now, giving Xavier his full attention, like this was the first interesting sentence of the day. Lucifer said. "Yes, the mob, the headlines, the frightened men in suits." Xavier did not flinch. "They want control," he said. "They want to put you in a box." Lucifer smiled, and it was not kind. "They can try." Xavier studied him. "You seem amused." "I'm not amused," Lucifer said. "I'm familiar." Xavier's voice stayed calm. "Then let us be clear," he said. "In this home, we will not use fear as an excuse to hurt people." Lucifer looked away, toward the window. "Such noble rules," he said softly. "Do they work?" "They must," Xavier said. Lucifer's gaze returned. "What do you truly want, Charles?" The question hit the room like a sudden weight. Xavier did not answer right away. He forced himself to breathe. "I want my children safe," Xavier said. Lucifer nodded once, like he respected that answer, even if he didn't share the same kind of love. "And you?" Xavier asked, meeting Lucifer's eyes. "What do you truly want?" Lucifer's smile flickered, almost like the question annoyed him. Then he answered anyway. "I want a world that doesn't lie to itself," he said. Xavier held his gaze. "Then you will find this one disappointing." Lucifer's laugh was quiet. "So far, yes." Of his inescrapsity. The meeting room filled that afternoon. Not all the students, but enough of the senior team and a few trusted older ones who needed to understand what was happening. Scott stood at the front like a shield. Aurora sat with calm, straight posture. Hank had a stack of printouts and a headache behind his eyes. Logan leaned against the wall like he didn't care, which was always how Logan looked when he cared the most. Jean sat with her hands clasped, her eyes tracking things no one else could see. Kurt sat across from her, his shoulders slightly hunched, as if he was holding himself together by choice. And Lucifer sat at the end of the table like a guest who had been invited to a trial. He looked at the pitcher of water, then at the glasses, then back at the group as if he expected someone to start selling him something. Scott began. "We have a problem," he said. "Orcus is framing yesterday as an X-Men attack." Lucifer raised a brow. "And you're surprised?" Scott ignored him. "We also have another problem," Scott continued. "You." Lucifer's smile widened. "Yes. That's usually the conclusion." Hank cleared his throat. "We need to discuss boundaries," Hank said, choosing his words carefully. "Your ability. The truth question." Lucifer looked mildly pleased. "My charm." Jean's voice was sharp. "Don't call it that." Lucifer turned to her, still calm. "What would you prefer?" "Coercion," Jean said. Aurora's gaze snapped to Jean. "Jean." "No," Jean said, not looking away from Lucifer. "We're not going to pretend it's harmless. People answer you even when they don't want to." I felt it. Lucifer's eyes stayed on Jean, curious. "And you," he said, "live inside minds all day. You pull secrets out with your own power." Jean's cheeks reddened with anger. "I don't do it for fun." Lucifer's smile sharpened. "Neither do I." Logan's claws clicked out halfway. "You do it because you like it." Logan growled. Lucifer looked at Logan's claws as if they were a kitchen tool. "What do you truly want, Wolverine?" Lucifer asked. Logan's teeth bared. "To punch you." Lucifer nodded, satisfied. "Honest." Scott slammed his palm on the table. "Stop," he snapped. "Right now. This is not a joke." Lucifer's eyes slid to Scott. "No," he said softly. "It's not." That single sentence, calm and direct, took the air out of the room for a moment. Hank jumped in quickly. "Here is the point," Hank said. "Consent matters. This school is built on the idea that power must be controlled because people deserve safety. If your ability bypasses choice, we have a problem." Kurt swallowed. "It feels like sin," he said quietly, then flinched as if he wished he hadn't said it. Lucifer's head tilted. "Does it?" Kurt forced himself to look up. "Because it takes something that belongs to God," Kurt said. "Judgment, truth. You take it with a smile." Lucifer stared at Kurt for a long beat. His face did not mock him. It did not soften either. "God has never needed my help," Lucifer said. Jean's pulse jumped at the way he said that, like it wasn't a metaphor, like it wasn't a game. Aurora held the room steady. "Lucifer," she said, "you saved people yesterday. I will not ignore that, but you cannot treat everyone here like a toy." Lucifer's gaze shifted to Aurora, and for a moment he looked almost respectful. "Almost. You are the only one here who speaks like a queen," he said. Aurora's eyes narrowed. "And you are trying to distract." Lucifer smiled. "I'm trying to survive your meeting." Scott stepped forward. "Here are the rules," he said. "You will not use that question on students. You will not use it on the public unless someone is in immediate danger and we agree it's necessary. You will not interfere with our decisions by pushing at our minds." Lucifer leaned back. "And if I refuse?" Logan pushed off the wall. "Then we kick you out," Logan said. Lucifer glanced at Logan. "You can try." Scott's voice stayed hard. "You want to stay here? You respect the house." Lucifer stared at Scott, then at Xavier, who had been quiet until now. Xavier spoke calmly. "We are not trying to cage you," Xavier said. "We are trying to protect people from any power that can remove their choice." Lucifer's eyes narrowed slightly. "Choice," he repeated. "Yes, your favorite word." Xavier nodded. "Because it matters." For a long moment, Lucifer said nothing. Then he stood, wings shifting slightly behind him. The room tensed. Lucifer walked to the side of the table and picked up a glass of water. He held it up, studying it. "I can shatter this," Lucifer said. "I can throw it at the wall. I can pour it on your precious floor. I can do any of those things." He set the glass down without spilling a drop. "But I won't," Lucifer said, "because I am choosing not to." He looked around the room. "You want rules," Lucifer said. "Fine, I understand rules. I simply don't worship them." He faced Xavier. "I will not ask your children that question," Lucifer said. "Not unless I have a very good reason." Kurt's shoulders dropped with relief. Jean did not relax. Scott held Lucifer's gaze. "And the public?" Lucifer's mouth curved. "If someone points a gun at a child," he said, "I will not stop to request a committee vote." Logan snorted. "Fair." Aurora exhaled slowly. "Then we agree on something," she said. Lucifer's eyes flicked to the door, like he could hear the world outside still shouting. "And what do you do," Lucifer asked, "when your enemies do not follow rules?" Scott didn't blink. "We win anyway." Lucifer smiled again. "Now that," he said, "is interesting. At Sazen's degraftable this live." That evening, Eric Lenser did not knock. He never did when he wanted to make a point. A cold metallic tremor ran through the mansion's foundations, not enough to break things, just enough to announce his presence. Scott felt it first, his entire body tightening. Storm rose from her chair, calm but ready. "He's here," she said. Logan's grin was sharp. "About time." They found him on the lawn, standing in the open. Coat still, helmet in hand. He looked like a man who wanted the world to recognize him on sight. Magneto's eyes tracked the mansion, then settled on the figure stepping out behind Scott. Lucifer walked forward with hands in his pockets, wings folded, expression amused. Magneto didn't look at the wings long. He looked at the eyes. "So," Magneto said, voice smooth, "you're the new story." Lucifer smiled. "And you're the man who enjoys making one." Scott stepped between them. "This isn't a negotiation." Magneto's gaze didn't move. "Everything is a negotiation," he said, "even peace." Ororo's voice was steady. "What do you want, Eric?" Magneto turned to her with a small, respectful nod. "A conversation," he said. Lucifer tilted his head. "With me?" "With you," Magneto confirmed. Lucifer's smile widened. "How bold." Magneto's eyes narrowed slightly. "I don't come to beg," he said. "I come to offer clarity." Lucifer took a few steps closer. He did not look threatened. He looked entertained. "What clarity?" Lucifer asked. Magneto's voice remained calm, but each word was heavy. "This world hates what it cannot control," he said. "Mutants have learned that lesson in blood. Now they will try to put that lesson on your wings." Lucifer glanced at Scott. "They already are." Magneto nodded. "Yes. So you must decide what you are," he said. "A weapon? A symbol? A shield?" Lucifer's eyebrows lifted. "Or none." Magneto's mouth tightened. "There is no none in a world at war," he said. Scott's tone was sharp. "Don't," he warned Magneto. "Don't try to recruit him." Magneto finally looked at Scott. "Recruit?" he repeated, almost amused. "Scott, I'm not recruiting. I'm reminding him that your dreams do not protect you." Ororo's gaze hardened. "Enough." Magneto turned back to Lucifer. "You are strong," he said simply. "You could end this war quickly." Lucifer watched him. "And then what?" Magneto's eyes burned. "Then our children stop hiding," he said. "Then our people stop dying." Lucifer's voice stayed mild. "And what do you do with the humans who fear you? Rule them? Cage them? Kill them?" Magneto did not flinch. "I do what must be done," he said. Lucifer smiled, but it was colder now. "That's a lovely excuse," he said. "It's also the first step toward becoming the monster they already think you are." Magneto's jaw tightened. "What do you truly want, Eric?" Lucifer asked. Scott stepped forward fast. "No." Magneto lifted one hand, not to attack, but to stop Scott. Metal in Scott's visor frame vibrated, and Scott froze, teeth clenched. Magneto's eyes did not leave Lucifer's. "Ask," Magneto said. Lucifer's gaze held steady. The air around them felt sharp. Magneto's mouth opened. Then he shut it. For the first time since he arrived, Lucifer looked surprised. Magneto's voice came low. "Not today," Magneto said. "Not with your trick." Lucifer's smile returned slowly, respectful in a strange way. "You have discipline," he said. "Good." Magneto stepped back, letting Scott move again. "I am not your enemy," Magneto said to Lucifer. "But I am not Charles Xavier either. If you choose to stand with him, you will be asked to lose. Again and again." Lucifer tilted his head. "And if I stand with you?" Magneto's answer was immediate. "Then you will be asked to win," he said. Lucifer looked at the mansion, then at the lawn, then at the dark sky. "You are both asking me to belong," Lucifer said softly. "I don't." Magneto's eyes narrowed. "No one belongs," he said. "We take our place." Lucifer stepped closer, close enough that the tips of his wings cast pale shadows on the grass. "I do not take orders," Lucifer said. Magneto held his gaze without blinking. "Then take a side," he replied. Lucifer smiled. "Maybe I'll take a nap." Logan barked a laugh despite himself. Magneto's expression hardened. "If you refuse to choose," he said, "someone else will choose for you." He turned away, coat shifting with the wind. Before he lifted into the air, he paused. "Charles," Magneto called, not looking back. "Be careful. He is not your student." Xavier's voice came from the porch, calm as always. "I know," he said. Magneto rose into the sky and vanished into the night. Scott exhaled hard. That was a warning, he said. Lucifer's eyes stayed on the dark where Magneto had been. That was a man who believes fear is a tool, Lucifer said. Ororo's tone was firm. And what do you believe? Lucifer turned to her. I believe, Lucifer said, that people tell themselves stories so they don't have to face what they want. He started walking back toward the mansion. And this world, he added, wants blood. And some of the bas de wild of his essay. Not everyone came to the school with thunder and metal. Nathaniel Essex came with smiles. He did not walk through the front gate. He did not announce himself. He slipped into the world like a rumor. Hank McCoy discovered him in the lab around midnight because Hank never slept properly when a mystery lived under his roof. A soft sound, a tiny shift in air. Hank turned from his microscope and froze. A man stood behind the workbench, hands clasped, eyes bright and wrong. He wore a suit too, but it looked like it belonged in a different kind of nightmare than Lucifer's did. Well, the man said warmly, this is cozy. Hank's fur bristled. You are not welcome here, Hank said. The man placed a hand to his chest as if wounded. Hank, he said, please, don't be rude. I came to help. Hank's eyes narrowed. Sinister. Mr. Sinister. Sinister corrected cheerfully. And yes, you may scream now, or throw something. Both are common. Hank's voice went low. How did you get in? Sinister smiled wider. Doors, he said. And friends? And the fact that your security is designed for men with guns, not men with imagination. Hank's hands tightened. Say what you want and leave. Sinister's eyes flicked to the monitors. You have a problem, he said. A big, beautiful, impossible problem. Hank felt cold. If you're talking about him, Lucifer, Sinister purred, tasting the name like candy. Yes, your winged stranger, your walking headline, your delicious anomaly. Hank's stomach turned. Stay away from him. Sinister laughed lightly. Oh, Hank, I'm already close, he said. I know what Orcus is building. I know what Magneto is thinking. I know what your dear professor is afraid to say out loud. Hank took a slow step sideways, toward an alarm switch. Sinister's eyes flicked to it. Sinister raised a finger, not threatening, just playful. Don't, he said. We can have a civilized chat. Hank's voice stayed steady. Why are you here? Sinister's smile softened to something that almost looked sincere. Almost. Because I can offer you something you want, Sinister said. Hank's eyes narrowed. And what is that? Sinister leaned forward slightly. Answers, he said. What he is, where he comes from, how he works, how to stop him if you have to. Hank's breath caught. He hated that the offer landed. Sinister watched his face like a scientist watching a reaction. And, Sinister added, voice silky, I can offer him something too. Hank's voice went cold. You don't offer gifts, you offer traps. Sinister's eyes glittered. We all do, he said. Some of us just admit it. Hank's fingers hovered near the alarm. Get out, Hank said. Sinister sighed dramatically. Fine, he said. I'll leave you with a simple warning then. He stepped closer, and Hank fought the urge to punch him. Orcus cannot defeat him by force, Sinister whispered. So they will defeat him by story. They will make the world beg for a cage. Sinister straightened. And if your winged friend gets bored, he said, smiling brightly again, he might hand them the key himself. Before Hank could respond, Sinister was gone, leaving only a faint smell of clean chemicals and rot. Hank stood still, heart pounding. Outside, somewhere in the mansion, a piano key struck once. Hank did not know if Lucifer had heard everything. He feared the answer. This is Prastas and the Prastas of that. Jean's dreams were not dreams anymore. She slept, but her mind never fully rested. The mansion was full of thoughts, hundreds of them. Most were small. Homework worries, crushes, fear about the news. But under those thoughts, there was a deeper layer now. A shadow that moved through fear like it was swimming. Jean sat up in bed, sweating. She closed her eyes and reached outward, careful, scanning the edges like Xavier taught her. She felt it. The Shadow King. Not inside the school. Not yet. But close. Watching. Waiting for a weak moment. Jean's hands trembled. Then she felt the other thing. The heat. It was far away. Not in the sky. Not in space the way people thought of space. It was behind reality, like a presence standing behind a curtain. It didn't speak. It didn't threaten. It simply noticed. Jean swallowed hard. "Phoenix," she whispered. A soft knock came at her door. "Jean?" Xavier's voice. Jean opened it. Xavier sat in the hallway, face gentle, eyes serious. "I felt you wake," Xavier said. Jean's voice shook. "He's still out there," she said. "Shadow King." Xavier nodded. "Yes." Jean hesitated, then spoke the deeper fear. "And something else is paying attention," she said. "Something big." Xavier's expression tightened. "I felt a shift too," he admitted. Jean stared down the hallway. Lucifer's presence was in the house like a calm mountain. Still, heavy, quiet. "I don't know if he's causing it," Jean said. Xavier's voice was soft. "Sometimes," he said, "a fire does not cause the wind. But the wind notices the fire." Jean looked at him, confused. Xavier gave a small, tired smile. "Forgive me," he said. "You know I prefer simple words. What I mean is, big powers notice other big powers." Jean's throat tightened. "So what happens now?" Xavier's gaze went distant for a moment. "Now," he said, "we hold our line. We do not become what the world expects." Jean nodded slowly. Down the hall, the piano played again, 2 notes this time, gentle, almost sad. Jean wondered, for the first time, if Lucifer ever felt afraid. And if he did, she wondered what he did with it. Because the responsible. 2 days later, the first death happened close enough that the school felt it. It wasn't a student. It was a young mutant man in a shelter apartment in the city. Someone Kurt had helped before. Someone who had learned to keep his head down. Orcus hit the building with a targeted raid. That's what the news called it. Hank called it murder. Scott called it a trap. Ororo called it grief. They arrived too late to save him. They still saved the others. Nightcrawler blinked families out through smoke. Storm held back fire. Cyclops cut a hole through a wall so people could escape. But when they found the body, the room went quiet. Kurt knelt beside the man and whispered a prayer under his breath, voice breaking. Scott stood in the doorway, fists clenched so hard his knuckles turned white. Jean stared at the air above the body, because she felt something slip. Not a thought, not a memory, a leaving, like a thread pulled from the world. Lucifer stepped into the room behind them, quiet as a shadow with wings. No one had called him. He had come anyway. He looked at the body for one long moment. Then he looked up, eyes narrowing, as if he was watching something no one else could see. Jean's pulse jumped. "You feel it," she said. Lucifer didn't answer her right away. His gaze tracked upward, past the ceiling, past the building, as if the city itself was thin. "Yes," Lucifer said finally. "I feel it." Scott's voice was sharp. "Feel what?" Lucifer's eyes stayed fixed on the invisible point. "Where he is going," Lucifer said. Kurt's head snapped up. "What?" Lucifer's face stayed calm, but something colder sat beneath it now. Not anger, not grief, more like irritation at a broken rule. "This world," Lucifer said quietly, "does not handle death the way mine does." Jean's stomach tightened. "What does that mean?" Lucifer looked at her. "It means I have questions," he said. Scott took a step forward. "If you're going to do something..." Lucifer held up a hand, not threatening, just stopping the words. "I'm not here to fight," he said. He looked down at the dead man again. Then he did something that made Jean's skin prickle. Lucifer knelt. He placed 2 fingers gently on the man's forehead, almost like a blessing. And he whispered, too low for anyone else to hear. Jean felt a faint shift, like a door creaking somewhere far away. Lucifer stood. "I'm going for a walk," he said. Logan's voice was rough. "Like hell you are." Lucifer looked at Logan. "Would you like to stop me?" he asked, tone mild. Logan's claws clicked out fully. Ororo stepped between them, voice firm. "Not here," she said. Lucifer's gaze slid to Ororo, and something in his expression softened. "I will return," Lucifer said. "I'm simply following the trail." Jean's eyes widened. "Trail?" Lucifer's wings unfurled slightly, then folded again. "Souls leave tracks," Lucifer said, like he was stating a basic fact. Scott's stomach sank. "That's not normal," he said. Lucifer's smile was thin. "No," he agreed. "It isn't." And then he was gone. Not flying. Not running. Gone, like the space he had been standing in decided to forget him. Jean stared at the empty air, breath shallow. Xavier's voice came through the comm, tight. "Jean," he said. "What just happened?" Jean swallowed. "He followed a soul," she whispered. And far away, behind everything, that heat stirred again, slow and awake. 2-0 verzest of nice. Lucifer did not go to a street or a roof. He stepped into the place beneath the world. It was not a single location. It was a layer. A thin space between thoughts, between life and what came after. He walked through it like a man walking down a hallway he had owned once and then abandoned. The air here did not smell like smoke or rain. It smelled like memory, and not in a poetic way, in a simple way, like a place that was made of what people left behind. Lucifer's eyes tracked the trail ahead, a faint pull he could feel in his chest. It was weaker than it should have been. It annoyed him. "This universe," Lucifer murmured to himself, "is sloppy." A ripple moved through the space. Someone else was nearby. Lucifer paused. A stepping disc opened like a sharp circle, and a teenage girl with blonde hair and a giant sword stepped out. Her eyes were hard. Her posture was ready. Ilyana Rasputin. Magic. She held her sword like she had learned to never trust a door. "You don't belong here," Magic said. Lucifer looked her up and down. His gaze lingered on her sword with interest. "And you do?" Lucifer asked. Magic's eyes narrowed. "This place is close to limbo," she said. "It's my problem." Lucifer's mouth curved. "Limbo," he repeated. "How nostalgic." Magic took a slow step forward. "What are you?" she demanded. Lucifer smiled. "You have manners like a soldier," he said. "I appreciate that." Magic's grip tightened. "Answer." Lucifer's eyes flicked past her, still tracking the trail. "I'm busy," he said. Magic stepped in front of him, blocking the path like a wall with a sword. Lucifer stopped, looking at her as if she had become a puzzle. "Do you think that will work?" Lucifer asked. Magic's voice was flat. "I don't care," she said. "I just need it to slow you down." Lucifer looked at her sword again. "That blade," he said, "is interesting." "It kills demons," Magic said. Lucifer's smile widened. "Does it?" he said softly. Magic didn't blink. "Try me," she said. Lucifer studied her face. He seemed amused, but also impressed. "You," Lucifer said, "have survived things that would break most people." Magic's eyes narrowed. "Don't do that," she snapped. "Do what?" "That thing," Magic said, voice tight, "where you look at someone and act like you know them." Lucifer's head tilted. "I know pain," he said. "It leaves signs." Magic lifted her sword. "Last warning," she said. Lucifer sighed. "Very well," he said. "Walk with me then, if you insist on supervision." Magic hesitated for half a second. Then she stepped to the side, still close enough to strike. Lucifer moved forward. Magic followed, sword ready. They walked through the thin space together, both listening to different dangers. Magic's voice was low. "Why are you here?" she asked. Lucifer's answer was simple. "Someone died," he said, "and I didn't like what I felt." Magic frowned. "People die all the time," she said. Lucifer glanced at her. "Yes," he said, "and sometimes the rules around death matter." Magic's eyes narrowed. "You're looking for hell," she guessed. Lucifer's smile returned. "I'm looking for order," he corrected. Magic scoffed. "Order," she repeated. "In this world?" Lucifer's eyes stayed forward. Every universe has a system, he said, even if it pretends it doesn't. The trail pulled harder now, bending toward a place where the air looked darker. Magic's shoulders tightened. That direction leads close to limbo, she said again. Lucifer's smile turned thin. Then perhaps, he said, we will find a door. And doors, in Magic's life, never came without teeth. Too ill. The subscribe doesn't necessarily. Back at the school, the absence hit like a missing weight. Scott stood in the foyer, listening to the alarms they had set for unusual energy. They were not screaming. Not yet. But the world outside was tightening. Hank rushed in with a tablet. Lucifer is gone, Hank said, voice sharp with worry. Scott's jaw clenched. I noticed, he said. Aurora stepped in, eyes calm but alert. Jean, she said, can you find him? Jean's face was pale. He's not on the surface, she said. He's in a lair. I can feel his presence like a distant pressure, but I can't grab it. Xavier's voice came through the speakers, steady. He is not hiding, Xavier said. He simply moved to a place our senses do not reach. Logan stalked in, claws already out. And we just let him, Logan said. Scott's voice stayed controlled. We don't have a choice, he said. Not without starting a war in our own house. Logan's eyes flashed. We might be in one already. A student ran down the hallway, breathless. Mr. Summers, he shouted. There's people outside. Scott's blood ran cold. He sprinted to the front windows. Outside the gates, vans had stopped along the road. Cameras, reporters, protesters, signs again. This time, the signs weren't about mutants in general. They were about wings. Turn him over. Keep our kids safe. X-Men are hiding a demon. Scott's stomach tightened. They found us, he said. Aurora's voice stayed calm, but her eyes sharpened. No, she said. They were led. Hank's fingers flew over his tablet. We also have a second issue, he said. Orcus drones in the area. Low altitude. Hidden. Scott's face went hard. They're using the crowd as cover, he said. Logan's teeth bared. Cowards, he muttered. Xavier's voice remained steady. Everyone, he said. Hold your line. Protect the children. Avoid escalation. Scott nodded, already moving. Lockdown, he ordered. Non-combatants to safe rooms. Combat team to positions. The mansion shifted into readiness like a trained body tensing muscles. And somewhere in the back of Jean's mind, the Shadow King stirred with quiet delight. Because this was exactly what it wanted. Fear in the halls. Doubt between friends. A house full of strong people asking the wrong question. Are we safe with him? Evenskan Ruzens is Helfingader. In the thin space near Limbo, the trail became a pull strong enough to feel in the bones. Lucifer stopped before a shape that looked like a door, but not a normal door. It was a tear in the space, edged with faint red light. Magic's entire posture tightened. That's a boundary, she said. Lucifer's eyes narrowed. It's a sloppy one, he replied. Magic lifted her sword. If you cross that without understanding it, she warned, you can cause problems you can't fix with a smile. Lucifer looked at her, almost amused. Do you think I fix things with a smile, he asked. Magic's eyes stayed hard. You fix things by forcing your will, she said. That's not the same as fixing. Lucifer's expression cooled. Be careful, he said. You sound like a priest. Magic scoffed. I'm not, she said. I'm a survivor. Lucifer's gaze lingered on her for a moment. Then he looked back at the tear. Something is wrong, Lucifer said quietly. Souls should not drift like this. They should go somewhere. Magic's voice was tight. They do, she said. But you're not in your world. This isn't your system. Lucifer's eyes narrowed. That, he said, is the problem. He stepped closer. Magic moved in front of him again, sword angled up. No, she said. Lucifer stopped. Not because the sword scared him, but because her refusal was interesting. What do you truly want, Ileana? Lucifer asked, voice calm. Magic's jaw clenched. To stop you, she said immediately, and she looked angry that she had answered. Lucifer's smile flickered. Good, he said. Then let's be honest. He lifted one hand and placed it near the tear, not touching it. The air around his fingers shimmered faintly, like reality noticing him. Magic's eyes widened. Don't, she warned. Lucifer's voice stayed mild. I'm not opening it, he said. I'm listening. For a moment, nothing happened. Then something moved on the other side of the tear. A voice came through, not loud, but clear enough to make Magic's skin crawl. Well, the voice purred. What a lovely scent. Magic's eyes went cold. Belasco, she muttered. Lucifer's brows lifted. A name, he said. How charming. The tear widened slightly on its own, like something inside pushed. A tall shape appeared, not fully stepping out, but showing enough to be understood. Horns, red eyes, a grin with too many teeth. Belasco's gaze fixed on Lucifer immediately. Oh, Belasco whispered. You're not from here. Lucifer smiled politely. Correct, he said. Belasco inhaled like he was tasting the air. His grin widened. And you have keys, he said. Magic snapped. Back off. Belasco laughed. Little princess, he said, voice thick with mocking. You always bring me gifts. Lucifer's eyes narrowed. Keys, Lucifer repeated, like he was testing the word. Belasco's tone turned hungry. Your authority, he said. Your claim. If I take it, I don't just rule Limbo. I rewrite it. Magic's sword flared faintly. Not happening, she said. Belasco's eyes stayed on Lucifer. Come, he coaxed. Step through. I'll show you how this world handles death. Lucifer's smile turned sharp. And you'll try to steal from me, he said. Belasco's grin did not fade. Of course, he said, like it was polite to admit it. Lucifer tilted his head. At least you're honest, he said. Magic snapped. Lucifer, don't. Lucifer stepped forward. He did not walk into the tear like a fool. He simply placed his hand on the edge and pushed. The tear opened wider, like a door giving up. Magic swore under her breath and followed, stepping through with her sword raised. They entered Limbo in a burst of red sky and jagged rock. The air was hot. The ground felt wrong under the feet, like it wanted to shift. Belasco stood waiting like a host. Behind him, demons moved in the distance, drawn by the scent of power. Belasco spread his arms. Welcome, he said. Now give me what I want. Lucifer looked around, calm as ever. This place is ugly, he said. Belasco's grin twitched. You insult my home? He hissed. Lucifer's eyes returned to him. You call this a home? He asked. Belasco snarled and lunged. He moved fast, faster than many humans could track. His clawed hand swung toward Lucifer's throat. Lucifer did not step back. He raised one finger. Belasco stopped mid-lunge, frozen in the air like someone paused his body. Magic's eyes widened. Even she hadn't expected it to be that easy. Lucifer walked up to Belasco's frozen face, studying his eyes with mild disgust. You're greedy, Lucifer said. And predictable. Belasco's mouth moved, trying to speak, but he couldn't. Lucifer glanced sideways at Magic. Is he always this dramatic? He asked. Magic didn't answer. She was watching the air, sensing something else shifting. Belasco's demons were gathering, not because they thought they could win, because Limbo ran on hunger and fear. Magic gritted her teeth. Finish it, she said, or we leave. Limbo doesn't like visitors. Lucifer looked back at Belasco. I didn't come to take your throne, Lucifer said. I came to understand a rule. He leaned closer, voice calm and sharp. Tell me, Lucifer said, where do souls go in this universe? Belasco's eyes flickered with panic. He didn't want to answer, but the question was Lucifer's favorite weapon. Magic felt it in the air, that pulled toward truth. Belasco's mouth opened. I don't know, he choked out. Lucifer's brows rose slightly. You don't, Lucifer said. Belasco trembled, still frozen in place, forced to speak anyway. It's not one place, he gasped. It's many. It's messy. Some go up, some go down. Some get lost. Some get taken. Lucifer's eyes hardened. Taken, he repeated. Belasco's voice shook. By things that feed, he said. By shadows, by gods, by forces. Magic's stomach tightened. Shadow King, Phoenix, other cosmic forces, too many. Lucifer's jaw clenched. Sloppy, he whispered again. And this time it wasn't just annoyance. It was anger at a system that allowed theft. Belasco's grin returned, even in fear. You hate it, he hissed. You can fix it. You can make rules. You can be king here too. Lucifer stared at him. Then, slowly, Lucifer smiled. Oh, Lucifer said softly. That's your real plan. Belasco's eyes gleamed. Make a throne, he urged. Make a hell. Make a heaven. Make them obey. Magic's grip tightened. Don't listen, she warned. Lucifer looked at Magic, expression unreadable. I'm not tempted by thrones, he said. Belasco's grin faltered. Liar, he spat. Lucifer's voice turned quiet and dangerous. I've had a throne, he said. It's dull. He snapped his fingers. Belasco slammed into the ground hard enough to crack the stone. The freeze ended, but the impact knocked the air out of him. Demons surged forward. Magic moved at once, stepping discs flashing, sword swinging. She cut through the first wave, each strike clean and practiced. Her face was hard, like someone who had been here too many times. Lucifer lifted his hand and the ground rose in a smooth wall between the demons and Magic. Not jagged, not messy, controlled, simple. He didn't kill them. He simply removed their path. Belasco coughed, pushing himself up. Rage twisted his face. You think you can come here and judge me? He roared. Lucifer's eyes narrowed. Yes, he said. Belasco threw a spell, red chains lashing toward Lucifer like whips. The chains wrapped around Lucifer's wrists. For one moment, Magic's heart jumped. Then Lucifer looked down at the chains like someone had put string on his hands. He pulled once. The chains shattered. Belasco stumbled back, stunned. Lucifer stepped forward, wings unfurling fully now, filling the red sky with white. The demons froze, their hunger turning into fear. Lucifer's voice carried, calm but absolute. Enough, he said. The air itself seemed to obey. The demons sank back into the shadows, not because they were convinced, but because their bodies refused to move. Belasco's face twisted. Give me your key, he hissed. Lucifer's eyes were cold. No, he said. He leaned down, close enough that Belasco flinched. And if you ever touch the edge of that soul trail again, Lucifer said, I will make you remember what fear is. Belasco's breath hitched. He wanted to laugh it off. He couldn't. Lucifer straightened. Magic stared at him, chest rising and falling. You could rule this place, she said, voice tight. Lucifer glanced at her. And you could, he replied. Yet you don't. Magic's eyes narrowed. I don't want it, she said. Lucifer's smile flickered. Neither do I, he said. He turned toward the tier that would lead them back. Then he paused, head tilting, as if hearing something far away. Magic felt it too. A tug, a disturbance. The school. Lucifer's eyes sharpened. They moved, he said. Magic's voice went hard. Orcus, she guessed. Lucifer's wings shifted, ready. Magic opened a stepping disc at once. Come on, she snapped. If they hurt my people. Lucifer stepped through with her. Limbo vanished behind them like a bad memory. There's an affable soul that considered description as poetic. Back at the mansion, the gates shook under pressure. Not from Magneto this time. From a crowd. From drones. From a plan that wanted the X-Men to look like monsters no matter what they did. Scott stood at the front hall with his visor down, barking orders into the comms. Keep the students underground, he said. No one goes outside unless I say so. Storm's voice was calm but urgent. They are pushing closer, she reported. The crowd is agitated. Logan's voice was rough. "Because somebody's poking them," he growled. "Smell it. Fear. It's being fed." Jean stood in the middle of the hall, with her eyes closed, palms raised slightly. Her mind reached outward, searching. The Shadow King was not a physical thing to punch. It was a pressure in the fear, a grin in the panic. Jean found the shape of it, just outside the perimeter, in the minds of people yelling at a gate they didn't understand. It whispered into them, "They're hiding a demon. Your children are in danger. If you don't act, you'll regret it." Jean's teeth clenched. "He's here," she said aloud. Xavier's voice came through her mind, steady. "I know. Stay with me, Jean." She felt Xavier's presence join hers, strong like a hand on her shoulder. Together, they pushed against the Shadow King's influence, trying to calm the panic, trying to blunt the worst edges. Outside, drones dipped lower. Hank shouted from a side hallway. "We have a breach attempt," he called. "Not through the gate, through the back fence." Scott spun. "Logan with me," he ordered. Logan didn't need to be told twice. He sprinted. They rounded a corner and saw it. A small Orcus strike team, moving fast, using the crowd noise as cover. They carried devices that looked like the anchors from the plaza. Scott's eyes narrowed. "They're planting fields," he said. Aurora arrived above, wind lifting her slightly. "They want to make this place a stage," she said. One of the Orcus agents saw them and raised a weapon. It wasn't a normal gun. Scott fired first, a tight optic blast that knocked the weapon from the agent's hands without taking his head off. He was not here to kill. Not yet. Logan slammed into the next agent, claws slicing the anchor device in half before it could be planted. The agent rolled, pulled a second device, and threw it like a grenade. It hit the ground and pulsed. For half a second, the air thickened. Aurora felt it. Her control over the wind didn't vanish, but it resisted her like wet cloth resisting a hand. Scott felt it too. His optics still worked, but the world around the device felt heavy. A trap that didn't stop powers. A trap that changed how powers reached people. Scott's voice went cold. "They're trying to cut off telepaths," he realized. Jean gasped inside the mansion, feeling the pulse like a slap. Xavier's presence wavered for a breath. Not broken, but forced to adjust. The Shadow King laughed inside the gap. "Good," it whispered. "Now they can't hold you together." Aurora raised both hands. Lightning cracked overhead, but she held it back. If she struck wrong, she'd hit students hiding underground. Scott's mind raced. "Hank," he shouted into comms, "find those devices and disable them, now." Hank's voice came strained. "Working on it." The Orcus team didn't stay to fight fair. They fired smoke rounds, not to kill, but to confuse and create footage. A drone hovered above them, camera lens gleaming. Scott realized the truth, sharp and sick. They wanted images of the X-Men attacking agents on school grounds. They wanted a reason to call it a terrorist base. Logan lunged at the drone. It dodged. Another drone swooped in, dropping a second pulsing device near the mansion wall. Jean staggered inside, grabbing the banister. Her connection to the crowd's minds outside became fuzzier, like someone turned down a radio. Xavier's voice tightened. "Jean, stay with me." Jean clenched her fists. "He's pushing harder," she said, voice strained. Kurt appeared in a puff of brimstone, grabbing a student and blinking them deeper underground. His eyes were wide, but he kept moving. "They're scared," he panted. "They're going to rush the gate." Storm's eyes flashed. She lifted her hands and wind rose, not to attack, but to hold the crowd back like a firm wall, keeping people from trampling each other. Scott saw a flash of movement near the tree line. A larger shape. Metal. His stomach dropped. "Sentinel," he breathed. It wasn't a full Nimrod this time. It was smaller, built for speed, built to look reasonable, built to be filmed. It stepped out of the trees with a loud, deliberate stomp, like it wanted the crowd to see it and cheer. The machine's speaker blared. Public safety unit deployed. The crowd roared. Scott's blood ran cold. If they fought it openly, Orcus got the footage. If they didn't, People died. Ororo's voice cut through. "We do what we always do," she said. "We protect." Scott nodded, jaw tight. "Kurt, evac routes. Ororo, keep the crowd back. Logan, take out its legs. Hank, devices." Logan grinned like a wolf. Finally. Scott raised his visor slightly, aiming for the Sentinel's knee joints. And that was when the air split. A stepping disc opened above the lawn, glowing bright. Lucifer stepped out like he was late to dinner. Magic followed, sword still in hand, eyes blazing. Every head turned. The Sentinel's sensors locked instantly. Anomaly detected. Lucifer looked at the machine, then at the crowd, then at the drones filming it all. His expression went flat. "Oh," Lucifer said softly, "this is your plan." Scott didn't waste time. "We're under attack," he snapped. Orcus planted anchors. Telepaths are disrupted. A Sentinel is on our lawn. Lucifer's eyes flicked to the pulsing devices, then to the drones, then back to the crowd. He understood in 1 second. They weren't trying to beat the X-Men. They were trying to make the world beg for cages. Lucifer's mouth curved, slow and sharp. "How tedious," he said. Magic's eyes stayed on the Sentinel. "Kill it," she said. Lucifer took a step forward. The Sentinel fired. A bright beam streaked toward the mansion, wide enough to tear through stone. Ororo threw wind at it. Scott fired into it. The beam still pushed forward. Lucifer lifted one hand. The beam stopped in midair again, perfectly still. The crowd gasped. The camera zoomed. Lucifer's eyes narrowed. "You want a show," he said, voice calm and loud enough to carry. "Fine." He turned his wrist. The beam bent upward and shot into the sky, exploding harmlessly above the clouds. Lucifer looked at the Sentinel like it was a bug on a window. Then he made a simple motion with his fingers. The Sentinel's legs locked. Its knees bent the wrong way. It crashed forward, face first into the lawn with a metal scream. The crowd went silent. The drones kept filming. Lucifer stepped closer and placed a hand on the machine's head. He did not rip it apart. He did something worse for Orcus. He made it speak. The Sentinel's speaker crackled. A cold voice came out. Not the machine's, but a recorded one. Phase 2. Provoke targets into public violence. Scott's eyes widened. Ororo's breath caught. Lucifer's gaze flicked to the hovering drones. "Would you like more?" Lucifer asked the air. The drones tried to back away. Lucifer snapped his fingers. Every drone froze in place, hovering like insects pinned to a board. Lucifer looked toward the tree line where the Orcus team had been. "Run," Lucifer said pleasantly. The Orcus agents turned and ran. Logan lunged after them, but Scott grabbed his arm. "No," Scott hissed. "Look at the crowd." Logan froze, eyes narrowing. The crowd was watching. Phones were up. People were shaking. People were confused. And Jean inside the mansion felt the Shadow King recoil, not defeated, but annoyed, because the story had just shifted. Lucifer turned slightly, eyes sweeping the people behind the gate. He didn't smile this time. "What do you truly want?" he asked the crowd. Ororo's eyes widened. "Lucifer." He didn't push, not hard. The anchor fields were still pulsing. But even without his trick working fully, the question hit people like a mirror. A man near the front shouted, voice cracking, "I want my daughter safe." A woman screamed, "I want them to stop lying to us." Another voice, quieter, said, "I want someone to blame." The last one made the crowd hesitate, because it was too honest. Lucifer's gaze sharpened. "There," he said softly, "that's your real enemy." Scott felt his stomach twist. Lucifer was doing it again, turning a crisis into therapy, but this time it wasn't funny. It was effective, and that made it dangerous. Jean stepped out onto the porch, face pale, eyes bright. Lucifer looked at her immediately. Jean felt the heat behind reality surge, like something had leaned closer. Her breath caught. Her eyes flashed with a faint golden light for half a second, so fast that some people might think it was lightning. Lucifer's smile faded. He stared at Jean as if he had finally found the real problem. "Oh," Lucifer said quietly. Jean's voice shook. It's watching, she whispered. Xavier rolled out beside her, face calm but strained. Jean, he said gently, breathe. Lucifer didn't look away from Jean. That, he said, voice low, is not just your power. Jean swallowed hard. I know. The Shadow King, sensing the shift, pushed one last whisper through fear. He will burn you. He will leave you. He will make you pay for his boredom. Jean's hands trembled. Then magic stepped up beside Lucifer, sword raised toward the dark edges of the trees. Something else is here, magic snapped. Logan's nose wrinkled. Yeah, he growled. Smells like rotten thoughts. Storm's eyes narrowed. Shadow King, she said. Lucifer finally looked away from Jane, scanning the air like he could see lies. I don't like parasites, Lucifer said. Xavier's voice stayed firm. We handle this together, he said. Lucifer's gaze slid to Xavier. For a moment, he looked almost amused again. Together, Lucifer repeated. How hopeful. Then his face turned serious, sharper than anyone had seen yet. But listen carefully, Lucifer said, voice calm and clear. This world is trying to turn me into a cage, and it's trying to turn you into monsters. He glanced at the frozen drones, the fallen sentinel, the crowd at the gate. I won't play their part, Lucifer said. Scott's eyes narrowed. Then what will you do? Lucifer's smile returned, thin and dangerous. I'll change the game, he said. And somewhere far away, behind the sky, that vast heat watched closely, as if deciding whether this was a spark worth answering. This is us excusing an self. 2 weeks passed, and the world did not calm down. It just got organized. Every day, there were new clips, new edits, new experts on TV pointing at paused frames of Lucifer's wings. They circled him with bright arrows, like he was a crime scene. Orcus told the public the Sentinel confession was fake. A hack. A trick. They said the X-Men had done it to scare people. Some people believed it. Some didn't. But fear didn't need proof. Fear only needed a face. Scott Summers watched it happen from behind the gates, jaw tight, hands always busy. He doubled patrols. He moved student schedules. He planned routes to safe rooms like he was drawing a map of a sinking ship. He hated that part of him, enjoyed the planning. It made him feel like he had control. In the mansion, the new routine formed without anyone voting on it. Lucifer stayed. Not like a guest, not like a prisoner. Like a storm that had decided the school was a place worth hovering over. Most mornings, he was nowhere to be found. Then he would appear at lunch, sit with a student who looked too quiet, and say one simple sentence. What do you truly want? The student would either laugh, blush, or freeze. Xavier stopped it the second time he saw it. Not with anger, with firmness. No questions for the children, Xavier said. Lucifer looked mildly offended. I'm helping. You are pressuring, Xavier corrected. Lucifer tilted his head. They can refuse. Xavier met his eyes. They won't. Not yet. Not with you. Lucifer stared at Xavier for a long moment, like he was deciding if this boundary was real. Then he nodded. Fine, he said. No children. That didn't mean he stopped asking adults. He asked Scott in the hallway once, as Scott rushed past with files in his hands. What do you truly want? Scott didn't even slow down. To keep them alive, he said. Lucifer's eyes followed him. And you'll break yourself to do it, Lucifer called after him, almost cheerful. Scott hated that he didn't disagree. Logan tested Lucifer in smaller ways. He sat near him during dinner and dropped a fork on purpose. He bumped his shoulder hard in the hall like it was an accident. He watched Lucifer's eyes during every news broadcast, looking for a crack, looking for hunger. Lucifer never flinched. He never snapped. He simply looked at Logan once and said, like it was a weather report, you're waiting for me to become your enemy. Logan's mouth tightened. And? Lucifer smiled. Boring. Logan grunted. Good. At night, Lucifer played the piano. He didn't play sad songs. He didn't play happy songs. He played clean, simple lines that sounded like a person thinking out loud. Sometimes Kurt stood in the doorway and listened, arms folded, face tense like a man trying to hold two beliefs at once. Sometimes Aurora listened too, and her expression stayed calm, but her eyes always watched the wings. Jean didn't listen from the doorway. Jean listened from inside her own head, because she could feel Lucifer's presence like a pressure in the building. And she could feel the other pressure now too. The heat behind reality. It was closer than before. Like something large had leaned in and decided to keep watching. Jean told herself she was imagining it. But she never fully slept anymore. Coded. Magneto came again on a night with clear skies. No alarms. No shaking walls. Just a quiet hum in the air, like metal far away had remembered him. Scott met him outside, because Scott refused to let him stroll into their home. Aurora was there too, calm and regal in the dark. Logan stood a few steps behind them, arms crossed, and Lucifer stepped out last, because Lucifer always made an entrance even when he didn't try. Magneto's eyes fixed on Lucifer at once. "You're still here," Magneto said. Lucifer's smile was lazy. "I'm still not bored." Magneto's mouth tightened. "Then let me give you something interesting," he said. Scott's voice was flat. "No." Magneto ignored him. He spoke to Lucifer like Scott wasn't there. "This world is moving toward cages," Magneto said. "They will build laws, then camps, then excuses, and they will call it safety." Lucifer's eyes narrowed slightly. "I've heard that speech in many languages." Magneto took a step forward, hands open, not begging, not pleading. "Come with me," Magneto said. "Not as a follower, as a force that cannot be ignored." Scott's stomach tightened. "Eric." Magneto's gaze flicked to Scott. "You cannot protect them with manners," Magneto said. "You cannot negotiate with hate." Lucifer watched Magneto for a long moment. Then he glanced at the mansion, at the lit windows, at the shadows of students moving inside. "You want a symbol?" Lucifer said. Magneto's jaw clenched. "I want survival," he corrected. Lucifer nodded slightly, like he accepted the honesty. "And what do you truly want?" Lucifer asked. Aurora's head snapped toward Lucifer. "Lucifer," she warned. Magneto stared at him, face hard. "Not your game," he said. Lucifer's smile widened. "It's always my game," he replied. Magneto's voice dropped low. "I want," he said slowly, carefully, as if he was walking around a trap. "A world where my people don't beg." Lucifer's expression didn't soften. It sharpened. "That's not a want," Lucifer said. "That's a wound." Magneto's eyes flashed. Metal in the nearby fence trembled. Logan shifted forward, claws halfway out. Aurora lifted one hand slightly, not to attack, but to hold the moment steady. Lucifer raised his own hand, palm out, calm. "No," Lucifer said, not loud. The fence stopped trembling. Magneto's eyes narrowed. "You think you're above this," he said. Lucifer stepped closer, wings folded, face calm. "I'm not above it," Lucifer said. "I'm tired of it." Magneto's voice turned sharp. "Then choose," he demanded. "Help me end it." Lucifer looked him in the eye. "End it how?" Lucifer asked. Magneto didn't blink. "By force," he said. Lucifer nodded once, as if Magneto had finally said the quiet part out loud. "And then what?" Lucifer asked again. Magneto's mouth tightened. "Then we build," he said. "We defend. We don't apologize." Lucifer's smile was thin. "And when humans fear you even more?" Lucifer asked. "When the next Orcus rises?" Lucifer stepped closer, voice calm but cutting. "Do you crush them too? Do you become their nightmare on purpose so they stop trying?" Magneto's eyes burned. "If that's what it takes." Lucifer stared at him. Then he shook his head, almost disappointed. "I don't do thrones," Lucifer said. Magneto's expression hardened. "This isn't about a throne." "It is," Lucifer replied, "because you're offering me a crown made of fear." Magneto's hands curled into fists. "Then stay with Xavier and lose slowly," he said cold. "Watch them die one law at a time." Lucifer's eyes flicked to Scott. Scott held his gaze, silent, furious. Lucifer looked back at Magneto. I will not join you, Lucifer said simply. Magneto's face turned stone. You will regret standing in the middle, Magneto said. Lucifer's smile returned, sharp and calm. I'm not in the middle, he said. I'm outside your line. Magneto stared at him for a long beat. Then he rose into the air without another word and vanished into the night. Scott exhaled hard. Aurora's voice was quiet. You just made an enemy, she said. Lucifer looked up at the sky where Magneto had been. He was never my friend, Lucifer replied. Logan grunted. You did the right thing, he said, then added quickly, like it hurt him to admit it. For now. Lucifer glanced at Logan. Careful, he said. Compliments are dangerous. Logan snorted and turned away. Inside the house, Jean felt that heat behind reality shift again, like something had listened, like something had judged the choice. Isabel him back to Khan exam. Hank found the next problem in a lab report that didn't make sense. It was small at first, a pattern in signal interference near the city, a set of pulses that matched the anchor devices Orcus had planted before. But these pulses were bigger, wider, and spaced like someone was drawing a circle. Hank's stomach sank as he laid the data on the table in front of Scott. They're building a net, Hank said. Scott's eyes narrowed. Where? Hank tapped the map. Downtown, near the river, near a major commuter line. Aurora stepped in, reading over Hank's shoulder. A public place, she said. Scott's face went hard. They want witnesses. Jean entered behind them, slower than usual, eyes tired. I feel agitation, she said. Not just in people, in the air, like a storm of thoughts. Logan's voice came from the doorway. Smells like a trap, he said. Scott didn't argue. We move, he said. Xavier's voice came through the room. Steady. Carefully, he reminded. We do not become what they want. Scott nodded once. We protect people, he said, no matter what it costs. Lucifer's voice drifted in from the hall. It always costs, he said. They turned. Lucifer leaned against the doorway like he had been listening the whole time, because he probably had. You're coming, Scott said, not asking. Lucifer smiled. I was hoping you'd do something interesting today. Jean's hands tightened into fists. This is not entertainment, she snapped. Lucifer looked at her. His smile faded slightly. No, he agreed. It isn't. That answer, quiet and honest, unsettled Jean more than his jokes ever did. There. His S of the businesses of the protectionals. The trap was dressed like a rescue. A train had stopped on the commuter line near the river. Not derailed, not broken, just frozen in place, as if the brakes had locked at the worst possible time. People were trapped inside, pressed against windows, phones raised, faces pale. Orcus vehicles sat nearby with logos that said Public Safety Support. Cameras were already set up. A woman in a neat suit stood on a portable stage with a microphone, speaking to the crowd gathered behind barricades. We are asking for calm, she said. We are here to protect you. Scott watched from a rooftop across the street, hidden behind a low wall. He could see the anchor devices. They were placed like streetlights and utility boxes, disguised, pulsing in a wide ring around the train. Annette, Hank's voice came through the comms, tight. Those are stronger than last time, he said. They're tuned for telepathic disruption and something else. Jean's throat tightened. They're tuned for him, she whispered. Lucifer stood beside Scott on the roof, wings folded, face calm. Aurora's eyes narrowed. They want you to act, she said to Lucifer. Lucifer's smile was thin. Yes, he replied, and they want to film which kind of monster I am. Logan crouched low. We go in quiet, he said. We get people out. Scott nodded. Kurt, you're first. Get the weakest out. Babies, elderly. Kurt's voice came soft and steady. Understood. Jean swallowed. I can't reach minds well inside that net, she warned. It's like thick fog. Xavier's presence touched their minds gently from far away. You are not alone, he reminded them. Hold your line. Scott's voice went hard. Move. Kurt teleported in a puff of smoke onto the train roof, then blinked inside through a shattered vent hatch. People screamed. Kurt raised his hands quickly. "I'm here to help," he said, voice calm. "Please, take my hand." He moved like a practiced rescue worker, not a fighter. He grabbed one person, blinked out, set them behind cover, blinked back in. A smooth rhythm. Orcus waited. Scott could almost feel the moment the trap would snap. It snapped when Kurt reached for a small girl with a mutant mark on her neck. A red light flashed from one of the disguise devices. The air inside the net thickened. Kurt blinked, then stumbled. His teleport didn't fail, but it stuttered, like the world was forcing him to pay extra for every jump. Kurt's eyes widened. "Scott," he said through comms, voice strained. "Something is interfering." Below, the woman on the stage pointed toward the train. "And there," she said loudly, "you see the danger. Uncontrolled mutant activity can endanger everyone." The crowd murmured. Scott's jaw clenched. They're weaponizing the rescue. Lucifer's voice was calm. "Of course they are." Then a second layer hit. Not metal, not machines. Fear. A wave of it rolled through the crowd, sudden and sharp, like a story being whispered into 1,000 ears at once. Jean's head snapped up. Her eyes widened. "He's here," she whispered. "Shadow King." The Shadow King didn't show as a face. It showed as a mood. People's hands shook more. Their voices rose. Their minds turned toward panic like it was a magnet. And through that panic, a thought spread, not quite spoken but shared. "The Winged One will kill us. The Winged One will take control. The Winged One will prove we're right." Logan's growl was low. "That freak's pushing them," he snarled. Aurora's hands lifted. Wind rose softly, trying to keep the crowd from rushing. "Stay calm," she urged, voice carrying. "Please, stay back." Scott's visor tilted down. "Aurora," he said, "hold the crowd. Hank, find the main anchor source. Jean, hold the Shadow King off. Logan, get Kurt out if he can't jump." Lucifer stepped forward to the edge of the roof, looking down at the train and the cameras and the woman on the stage. He didn't look angry. He looked tired. "So many props," Lucifer said. He spread his wings slowly, not for drama, but because he was done pretending he was small. He stepped off the roof. He didn't fall. He descended in a controlled glide, calm as if he was walking downstairs. Every camera swung toward him. The woman on the stage paused, then smiled as if this was exactly what she had wanted. "Here he is," she announced. "The unknown anomaly." Lucifer landed on the street inside the net, with a soft tap of his shoes. The anchor devices pulsed harder. Jean felt it like a shove. Lucifer's eyes flicked to the nearest device. He lifted a hand. For a half second, the device resisted, not physically, but like a rule pushing back. Lucifer smiled faintly. "Oh," he said, "you've improved." He didn't crush the device. Instead, he walked past it, straight toward the train. Logan dropped from the roof behind him, landing hard, ready to fight. Aurora hovered above, wind swirling, eyes scanning for the crowd surge. Kurt's voice came through the comms, strained. "I can't keep this up," he said. "My jumps." Scott's voice snapped. "Hold on, we're coming." Lucifer reached the train door. It was locked with a thick Orcus clamp, metal and electricity humming. Lucifer put his hand on it. The clamp didn't break. It simply unlocked itself, like it remembered it was supposed to open. Lucifer stepped inside the train car. The smell of sweat and fear hit him. People pressed back, eyes wide. A man yelled, "Stay away." Lucifer's gaze swept over them, quick and sharp, reading their faces like pages. He kept his voice calm. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. A woman clutched a baby and sobbed. They said you'd make us obey," she cried. Lucifer stared at her for a beat. Then he nodded once. "Yes," Lucifer said. "That's what they said." He looked toward the windows, where cameras were filming through glass. "Do you want to know what I truly want?" Lucifer asked the car. No one answered. Lucifer continued anyway. "I want you to choose," he said, "even if you choose poorly." Some people stared. Some didn't understand. Some looked angry. Lucifer didn't care. He turned to the nearest emergency lever and pulled it. The train doors on this car opened with a hiss. People hesitated. Then Kurt blinked in beside them, breathing hard, face tense. "Go," Kurt urged. "Please, go now." People began to move. Slow at first, then faster. Outside, the woman on the stage raised her voice. "See?" she shouted. "They are manipulating the crowd." Lucifer stepped back out of the train car and looked toward the stage. The anchor devices pulsed again, and the air felt like thick mud around him. Lucifer's eyes narrowed. He lifted his voice, not shouting, but carrying. "You," Lucifer said to the woman on the stage, "are trying very hard to be important." The woman's smile tightened. "I'm trying to keep people safe," she said smoothly. Lucifer tilted his head. "What do you truly want?" he asked. The anchor net hummed. It dulled his push. It didn't stop the question from being heard. The woman's eyes flickered. For a second, she looked like she might not answer. Then her mouth opened anyway, and her own face tightened like she couldn't stop herself. "I want them to thank me," she blurted. The crowd went quiet. The woman froze, eyes wide with sudden panic at her own words. Lucifer nodded once, satisfied. "And your men," Lucifer said, gaze shifting to the Orcus agents near the equipment vans. "What do you truly want?" One agent barked, "Don't listen to him." Another agent's mouth opened on its own. "I want to feel safe," the agent said, voice shaking. "I want mutants gone." The crowd's murmur returned, but now it wasn't clean fear. It was confusion, because the truth sounded ugly when you had to hear it out loud. And the Shadow King hated confusion. It hated anything that weakened a simple story. It pushed harder. The fear wave spiked again. People began to shout. "Monster! Control him! Shoot him!" Jeanne staggered on the rooftop, hands to her head, eyes glowing faintly. "He's pushing them," she gasped. "He's trying to make the crowd attack. He wants chaos." Xavier's presence wrapped around her mind like an anchor of his own. "Stay with me," Xavier urged. "Breathe." Jeanne swallowed hard and pushed back. She reached into the crowd minds, not to command, but to calm, to steady, to lower the volume of panic. It worked. For a second. Then something struck Jean from the inside. A sharp whisper, close to her ear, even though it wasn't a sound. "Burn it," the whisper urged. Jean's eyes widened. The heat behind reality surged like a wave. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled. A golden flicker ran along her fingertips. Aurora saw it from above and felt her stomach drop. "Jean," Aurora whispered. Scott's voice snapped through comms. "Jean, pull back." Jean tried. But the Phoenix presence wasn't a person to argue with. It was a force that reacted when the world tilted. And right now, the world was tilting under fear, lies, and a godlike anomaly standing in the middle of a net. Jean's eyes flashed brighter. Lucifer looked up sharply, feeling it. For the first time, his calm expression broke into something real. Concern. Not for himself. For the cost. He rose into the air inside the net in one smooth motion and looked directly at Jean on the rooftop. Jean felt his gaze like a cold hand on a hot wound. Lucifer spoke, and his voice carried through the chaos without shouting. "Jean," Lucifer said, calm and clear, "that is not your master." Jean's breath shook. I can't," she stammered. Lucifer's eyes held hers. "You can," he said simply, "because you choose." The Phoenix heat surged again, impatient, hungry for a clean solution. Burn the lie, burn the fear, burn the problem. Lucifer lifted one hand toward Jean, not touching her, not controlling her. He made a space, a pocket of quiet in the air between them, like the world paused for one breath. Jean felt it, a brief silence inside her head. Xavier felt it too, and used that breath to push, gently but firmly. "Jean, come back to us," Xavier urged. Jean clenched her jaw. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "No," Jean whispered. "No." The golden light dimmed slightly. The heat pulled back. Not gone, but not flooding her either. Jean gasped like she had been underwater. Down below, the Shadow King shrieked inside the crowd's fear, angry now, because it had almost pushed Jean into burning everyone. And Lucifer had stopped it without forcing her. Lucifer's gaze shifted from Jean to the crowd, then to the anchor devices, then to the cameras. He sighed. "Enough," Lucifer said. He snapped his fingers once. Every anchor device in the ring went dark at the same time, like a string of lights losing power. Hank stared at his scanner in shock. "He didn't break them," Hank breathed. "He turned them off." Ororo's eyes narrowed. "How?" Lucifer didn't answer. He looked at the Orcus vans. The equipment inside them began to slide out on its own, floating, bolts turning, panels opening, not exploding, not tearing, just revealing. Cameras zoomed in. Inside one van, a rack of devices lit up with labels, screens, logs. A recorded voice played, loud and clear, broadcast through the stage speakers as if the system had betrayed its owners. Objective: force anomaly to use coercive ability on camera. Scott's eyes widened. The crowd's murmur turned into sharp, angry noise. The woman on the stage stepped back, face pale. Lucifer lifted his hand and pointed gently at her. "You wanted a story," Lucifer said. "Here it is." The woman's mouth opened and closed, searching for words. An Orcus agent raised a weapon, aiming at Lucifer's back. Logan saw it and moved like an animal. He slammed into the agent, claws flashing, slicing the weapon in half and knocking the man to the ground. Scott's optic blast fired next, cutting a second weapon out of another agent's hands. Ororo's wind rose, pinning the remaining agents in place without crushing them, holding them like statues. Kurt, breathing hard, continued pulling people out of the train in quick jumps now that the interference was gone. Jean stayed on the rooftop, knees shaking, but her eyes clear again. She felt the Shadow King slip away through the crowd's fear like a rat fleeing a light. Not defeated, not dead, but pushed back, for now. Xavier's presence remained steady, tired, and proud. "You did well," he told Jean quietly. Jean swallowed, wiping tears from her cheek. "It wasn't me," she whispered. "Not alone." Below, Lucifer landed on the street again and looked around as if he had finished cleaning a mess. Scott approached him carefully, visor still down, because Scott never turned his back on unknowns, even helpful ones. "You just exposed them," Scott said. Lucifer's smile was thin. "Yes," he replied. Scott's jaw tightened. "You could have wiped their minds," Scott said. "You could have forced the whole crowd to calm down. You didn't." Lucifer's gaze slid to Scott. "You wanted me to?" he asked, mildly. Scott stiffened. He didn't answer. Lucifer nodded, like that was answer enough. "I don't fix cages with bigger cages," Lucifer said. Ororo descended beside them, rain-soft wind around her. "You saved those people," Ororo said. Lucifer glanced at her. "I was preventing boredom," he replied. Ororo didn't smile. "No," she said softly. "You were preventing tragedy." Lucifer's expression flickered, almost annoyed. "Don't make it sentimental," he said. Logan walked up, wiping blood from his lip. "So what now?" he asked. "You gonna give a speech?" Lucifer looked at the cameras still filming, then at the crowd staring with mixed fear and awe. He stepped forward so the microphones could catch him. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He spoke like he was tired of being misunderstood and didn't care if that tiredness offended anyone. "I am not your savior," Lucifer said. "I am not your devil. I am not your weapon." He paused, eyes scanning faces. "You can fear me," Lucifer said. "That's your choice. But if you use fear to build cages for others, don't pretend it's justice." He glanced toward the Orcus agents pinned by wind. "These people wanted a monster," Lucifer said, "so they tried to create one." Lucifer turned slightly, looking toward the rooftop where Jean stood. "And when power gets tempted," Lucifer said, voice calm, "it must decide what it is." Jean's throat tightened. Lucifer looked back at the crowd. "Choose wisely," he said simply. Then he walked away from the cameras like they were no longer worth his time. Scott watched him go, chest tight. He had expected Lucifer to become a problem. He hadn't expected Lucifer to become a boundary. A line in the sand that said, "I won't rule you, even if I can." And somehow, that made him harder to predict. To disaster wife, a build instanterus. That night, the mansion was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. Not denial. Recovery. Students whispered about the train rescue and the exposed logs. Some smiled. Some cried. Some looked more afraid than before, because even a good day proved how close the world was to disaster. In Xavier's office, the team gathered in a small circle. Hank looked exhausted. "Orcus will spin this too," he said. "They always do." Scott nodded. "But we cracked their mask," he said. "Some people saw." Ororo's voice was steady. "Truth doesn't fix everything," she said. "But it matters." Jean sat with her hands in her lap, still shaking at the memory of the heat trying to take her over. Xavier looked at her with gentle eyes. "You chose yourself," he told her. "That is the point." Jean swallowed hard. It was like it wanted to solve everything, she whispered. "Burn it clean." Logan grunted. "Clean's a lie," he said. Xavier nodded once. "Yes," he agreed. "Clean solutions often come with hidden costs." Scott's gaze flicked toward the hallway. "Where is he now?" he asked. Ororo answered softly. "Piano room," she said. Scott exhaled. "Of course." Jean stood slowly. "I need air," she said. Xavier nodded. "Go," he said gently. Jean walked down the hall toward the piano room, not sure why her feet took her there. The door was open. Lucifer sat at the piano, playing a simple line, slow and steady. He didn't look up right away. Jean stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. Lucifer finally glanced over his shoulder. "You're alive," Lucifer said. Jean's mouth tightened. "So are you," she replied. Lucifer turned back to the keys. "How heroic," he said dryly. Jean stepped inside. "Why did you help me?" she asked, voice tight. "You could have forced it away." Lucifer's fingers kept moving. "I don't force what matters," he said. Jean stared at him. "That's a lie," she said. "You make people tell the truth." Lucifer's hands paused. One note hung in the air. He looked at her now, fully. "I make liars uncomfortable," Lucifer said. Jean's eyes narrowed. "That's still control." Lucifer's smile was faint. "Everything is control," he said. "The question is who holds it and what they do with it." Jean swallowed. "That thing inside me," she whispered. "It's still watching." Lucifer nodded once. "Yes," he said simply. Jean's voice shook. "Does it want me to burn the world?" Lucifer's gaze softened slightly, almost human for a moment. "It wants balance," Lucifer said. "It doesn't care how you feel about the method." Jean's fists clenched. "That's not fair." Lucifer's smile returned. Thin. "No," he agreed. "It isn't." Jean stared at him, then asked the question she hated that she needed to ask. "What do you truly want?" Jean said. Lucifer blinked once, surprised. Then he laughed quietly, like she had finally learned his language. He turned back to the piano and played one more note before answering. "I want," Lucifer said, voice calm and honest, "to see if anyone here can choose goodness without being forced." Jean's throat tightened. "And?" she asked. Lucifer glanced at her again. "Today," Lucifer said. "You did." Jean stood still, not knowing what to do with the strange warmth in her chest that felt like relief and anger at the same time. Lucifer returned to the piano. The music continued, simple and steady, like a heartbeat. Jean turned and left quietly. In the hallway, she felt the heat behind reality again. Still present, still watching, but not pressing as hard. Not tonight. The constable had bad. The rooftop was cold and clear. Ororo found Lucifer there near midnight, standing at the edge with the city spread out below like a map of lights. His wings were folded, his hands were in his pockets. He looked, for once, Almost still, Aurora walked up beside him without fear. "You made enemies today," she said. Lucifer's eyes stayed on the city. "I did yesterday too," he replied. Aurora's voice was calm. "And you made something else," she said. Lucifer finally glanced at her. "A mess?" he guessed. Aurora shook her head once. "A line," she said. Lucifer's mouth curved faintly. "Yes," he admitted. "A line." Aurora watched the streets, the small moving dots of cars, the world refusing to stop. "Do you belong here?" Aurora asked. Lucifer's answer was immediate. "No," he said. Aurora nodded. "Will you stay?" she asked. Lucifer looked at the city again. "For now," he said. Aurora's gaze softened slightly. "Why?" she asked. Lucifer's voice was quiet. "Because your world is honest about its ugliness," he said. "It doesn't hide it behind pretty words. It just calls it policy." Aurora's mouth tightened. "We fight it anyway," she said. Lucifer glanced at her. "Yes," he replied. "You do." They stood in silence for a long moment. Then Aurora asked the only question that really mattered. "Are you bored?" she asked. Lucifer's smile flickered. "Not tonight," he said. Aurora nodded once, satisfied. Below them, the city moved on. Above them, the sky stayed dark. And behind everything, far beyond what human eyes could see, something vast continued to watch. Not with love, not with hate, with attention. Lucifer looked up once, as if he could feel it too. Then he looked back down at the world and spoke in a calm voice that sounded almost like a promise. "Choice," Lucifer said softly, "is the only honest thing a world can offer." The wind brushed past them. The lights below kept burning, and the night held, for now,